A blade creates a red line in the dust. A pen creates a red line across a continent. Miyamoto Musashi and Napoleon Bonaparte are not mere historical figures. They are the ultimate engineers of reality who realize that geography, steel, and even death are just variables to be manipulated by a singular, focused will. Today, we dissect the lethal logic of the sword saint and the emperor to provide the blueprint for your own total mastery. This is Will and Cut. The stench of damp earth and the metallic tang of blood do not birth legends. They birth survivors who refuse to die. Musashi stood amidst the rotting corpses of Sakigahara, 17 years old, gripping a broken blade while the rain washed the filth of defeat into his wounds. He chose then that he would never again be a victim of circumstance. Thousands of miles away, on the rugged cliffs of Corsica, a thin, sallow-skinned boy named Napoleon watched the French elite sneer at his accent. He felt the cold sting of their elitism and decided he would not just join their world, he would own it. At the military school of Brienne, Napoleon would retreat to a private garden he carved out for himself, defending it with his fists against older, wealthier students who mocked his poverty. He was not just protecting a plot of land, he was practicing the defense of a frontier. Napoleon wrote in his diary, quote, "Always alone in the midst of men. I return to dream by myself and give myself up to all the sharpness of my melancholy." End quote. He did not flee from the loneliness. He weaponized it. Simultaneously, Musashi was wandering the mountains of Kyushu, sleeping under the freezing stars without a blanket. He did not seek a master because he realized that nature is the only teacher that does not lie. When his feet bled on the jagged rocks, he did not wrap them in silk. He forced them to become as hard as the earth itself. He understood that a man who cannot endure the bite of winter will never endure the bite of a blade. Their origins were not built on talent, but on a pathological refusal to be broken by the environment that sought to bury them. Musashi did not see his lack of a master as a tragedy. He saw it as an exemption from dogma. He realized that a school provides a ceiling, but the wild provides an abyss. He chose the abyss. While other warriors were polishing their silk kimonos for the tea ceremony, Musashi was hardening his skin against the biting salt of the coast. He understood that a man who is comfortable in his surroundings is a man who is already dead to progress. Napoleon, during his time in Paris, was so poor he often skipped meals to buy books on artillery and history. He looked at the decadence of the French nobility and felt a lethal contempt. Napoleon famously muttered to himself, quote, "If I were the king, I would have mowed down this rabble." End quote. He was not talking about the people. He was talking about the weakness of the leadership. He realized that power is not inherited. It is seized by the one who is most willing to endure the cold. Their scars were not accidents. They were the intentional branding of a self-imposed evolution. They did not just survive the fire, they realized they were the fire. These men did not seek comfort. They sought the friction that turns iron into steel. Musashi's hands became a map of scars and calluses. Napoleon's eyes became cold stone from sleepless nights over tactical maps in candlelit tents. They understood a truth you constantly ignore. Greatness is a debt paid in daily agony. At the siege of Toulon, Napoleon did not wait for orders from incompetent superiors. He stepped into the line of fire, took a bayonet to the thigh, and directed the cannons with the cold precision of a clockmaker. He saw the trajectory of the shells before they were fired. He commanded the chaos. During the Italian campaign, at the bridge of Arcole, the French momentum had stalled under a hail of Austrian grapeshot. Men were liquefying in the mud. Napoleon did not give a speech. He seized a tricolor flag, sprinted into the center of the bridge, and stood defiant as bullets tore the air around him. He was not being brave. He was being a catalyst. He knew that the soldiers' fear was a frequency, and he intended to override it with his own. This is the lethal logic in its rawest form. Most leaders command from the rear, protecting their status. Napoleon commanded from the impact zone, treating his own life as a chess piece to be sacrificed for the checkmate. Napoleon famously said, quote, "A man like me cares little for the life of 1,000,000 men." End quote. But he started that count with his own. He was the first into the fire, and thus, he was the first to own the results. Napoleon's brilliance lay in his baton, Kara, the diamond formation that allowed his army to be fluid, yet indestructible. He did not see soldiers. He saw vectors of energy. In the heat of the Battle of Jena, he did not rely on luck. He relied on the mathematical certainty that his speed would paralyze the Prussian mind. Napoleon said, quote, "Strategy is the art of making use of time and space. I am less chary of the latter than the former. Space we can recover, lost time never." End quote. He was a ghost who moved through the clock. Musashi's surgery on reality was even more intimate. In his duel with the 12-year-old head of the Yoshioka clan, he broke the moral rules of his time to establish a higher strategic truth. If you leave a seed of vengeance, you have failed the mission. He struck without hesitation. He realized that mercy is often just another word for weakness in the face of a total objective. To Musashi, the sword was not a tool for honor. It was a tool for the absolute removal of obstacles. He did not cut the man. He cut the possibility of failure. Musashi performed the same surgery on reality at Ichi-Joji. Surrounded by dozens of the Yoshioka clan, he did not panic. He eliminated the leader in a single, blurring stroke and moved through the crowd like a ghost. He did not fight the crowd. He fought the space between them. Both men possessed a coup-de-willed ability to see the entire battlefield in a single glance. They did not see problems. They saw geometry. They realized that will is not an emotion, but a structural force that bends the physical world until it snaps. Look at your life. It is a graveyard of almosts and tomorrow. You negotiate with your alarm clock. You compromise with your distractions. You are a slave to the warmth of your bed. Your decay starts here, in the moments you choose comfort over the kill. Musashi and Napoleon lived by the lethal logic. Quote, "The present is a tool. The future is the prize." End quote. Musashi lived in filth, refusing to bathe or groom, because a moment spent on vanity was a moment stolen from the blade. Napoleon slept for only 4 hours, his mind a relentless engine of logistics and law. If your goals do not make the average person feel uncomfortable, your goals are pathetic. If you are still seeking work-life balance, you have already failed. These legends knew that balance is for the weak. Total immersion is for the masters. You cry about burnout after 40 hours of sitting in a climate-controlled office. Napoleon stayed in the saddle for 18 hours straight, dictating 3 different letters to 3 different secretaries, while coordinating the logistics of 200,000 men. Musashi did not find time to practice. He lived in a permanent state of readiness. He did not have a morning routine. He had a life of constant execution. You are currently negotiating with your own mediocrity. You think your hustle is impressive because you posted a picture of your coffee. Musashi said, quote, "Do nothing which is of no use." End quote. Look at your day. How much of it is use? How much of it is just you stroking your own ego to hide the fact that you are terrified of actual work? You are not tired. You are uninspired and undisciplined. The master's voice does not offer you a hug. It offers you a mirror. And in that mirror, you see a person who is capable of conquering empires, but chooses to conquer a bag of chips instead. Stop identifying with your weaknesses. Kill the version of you that seeks a break and start feeding the version that seeks a breakthrough. You ask for motivation, but motivation is a toy for children. Musashi and Napoleon did not have motivation. They had an obsession that functioned like a biological necessity. Do you think Napoleon felt like crossing the Alps in the snow while his men were starving? No. He did it because the alternative, being an average Corsican nobody, was more painful than death. You use your feelings as a compass, but your feelings are programmed by a society that wants you docile, distracted, and dependent. When you say, "I do not feel like working today," you are literally handing your life over to the algorithm of mediocrity. Musashi wrote, quote, "Resentment and complaint are appropriate neither for oneself nor others." End quote. He did not care about his bad mood. He cared about his grip on the hilt. If you cannot govern the chemical signals in your brain for an 8-hour work block, how do you expect to govern the trajectory of your destiny? You are not searching for your purpose. You are hiding from it because purpose requires you to burn the bridge to your comfort zone. You are holding the match, but you are too afraid of the heat to strike it. You must become a conductor for your purpose, or you will remain a statistic in the archives of the mediocre. In 1805, at Austerlitz, Napoleon executed the ultimate ghosting. He deliberately weakened his right flank, inviting the Russian and Austrian giants to attack. He made himself look vulnerable. He played the role of the victim until the trap snapped shut. In the freezing mist, he reappeared where he was least expected, shattering the center of the Allied army. Think of the psychological terror Napoleon inflicted. At the Battle of Ulm, he moved so fast through the Black Forest that the Austrian general Mack thought he was facing a ghost. Napoleon had vanished from the maps and reappeared in the rear, cutting off all escape. He ghosted the traditional rules of war. He did not march on roads. He marched through the impossible. This is exactly what happens when you enter the state of mushin, no mind. When you stop caring about what the industry thinks or what best practices say, you become unpredictable. Your competition is looking at the history books to find your next move, but you are not in the books. You are in the void. You are not competing. You are creating a new reality where they do not even exist. To be a ghost is to be untargetable. If they cannot find your ego, they cannot find your weakness. The strategic ghosting is not about running away. It is about becoming so detached from the outcome that you are impossible to manipulate. Napoleon was a master of the rumor war. He would leak false plans, move his troops in the middle of the night, and vanish into the fog of war. By the time his enemies formed a line of defense, he was already behind them, eating dinner in their captured tents. He was a master of the OODA loop before the term existed. Observe, orient, decide, act. He moved faster than his enemies could think. This is the power of the void in your modern life. When you stop reacting to every notification, every insult, and every minor setback, you become a ghost in the machine of the 21st century. People expect you to be angry, so you stay calm. They expect you to be predictable, so you pivot. Musashi's wooden awe was the ultimate insult to the pride of his opponent. He won the duel before it started because Kojiro was fighting a man who was not there. Kojiro was fighting Musashi's reputation. Musashi was fighting Kojiro's reality. To occupy the void is to be the only person in the room who truly knows what time it is. This is exactly what Musashi meant when he defined the void. In his duel with Sasaki Kojiro, he arrived late, unwashed, carrying a wooden sword carved from an awl. He ghosted Kojiro's expectations. He attacked the mind before he touched the body. To enter the void is to lose your ego. When you have no image to protect, you become invisible to your enemies. You stop being the main character of your pathetic little drama and become a force of nature. In the void, there is no fear, because there is no self left to be afraid. The emperor died in exile on a lonely island, poised by the very world he tried to civilize. The Ronin died in a cave, coughing blood into a manuscript. Imagine the scene. St. Helena, 1821. The man who once wore the crown of Europe is reduced to arguing with his captors about the quality of his wine. Yet, even in that damp, rat-infested house he was codifying his legacy. He knew his body was a temporary vessel, but his ideas were a virus he had already injected into the veins of history. Across the ocean of time, Musashi sits in the Rigondo cave. He knows the end is coming. He does not pray for more time. He uses the last drops of his energy to record the Dakad, the 21 precepts for self-reliance. One of them reads, quote, "Never stray from the way," end quote. Even as his lungs failed, his hand did not tremble. They did not die peacefully. They died in the middle of a strike. They died while still executing. That is the only death a warrior should accept. To be found at your post, with your work finished and your spirit empty of regret. There is no happily ever after for those who hunt greatness. There is only the work, the execution, and the monument they leave behind. Napoleon's code still governs nations. Musashi's Book of Five Rings still guides warriors. They prove that a single individual is the only meaningful unit of power in the universe. Everything else, government, public opinion, your social media feed, is just noise. The blade is in your hand. The map is on your desk. You have been given the blueprint. Now you must provide the steel. This path is not for the masses. It is for the few who have the iron in their blood to master their destiny. If you are one of them, if you are ready to stop finding yourself and start creating the version of you that the world cannot ignore, then you belong here. Joining this tribe is not a clique. It is a seal of intent. The emperor conquered through the masses. The Ronin conquered through solitude. Both achieved absolute victory. In your opinion, whose will is more unshakable? Napoleon's genius that ruled a continent, or Musashi's steel standing alone in the void? I am waiting for your answer below. Viewer, choose your side now. The grand destruction of an empire, or the silent wisdom of a warrior? Who should we see next to Musashi in the next episode? A conqueror who brought empires to their knees, or a master who changed the world from the shadows? Give a name and seal it. If you're ready to execute your potential, write conquest in the comments right now. This is your oath. This is your seal. Execute. This is will and cut.